I stood in the middle of a glittering Manhattan ballroom, the kind of place where the champagne flutes cost more than my first car. Chandeliers dripped light like honey, and the crowd, mostly white, all rich, sipped and smiled like they owned the world. I was Eli Vance, 32, black, and supposed to be one of them tonight. My suit was sharp, my tie was silk, and my dream was bigger than this room. But right then, my dream was getting ripped to shreds, literally. Harrison Sterling, my father-in-law, held up my Harlem Community Project proposal, my life's work, and tore it in half. The paper fluttered to the floor like dead leaves. "You think a guy like you can pull this off?" he said, his voice loud enough to hush the room. His smirk was a blade, and that phrase, "a guy like you," hung heavy with something uglier than just doubt. I froze. The air felt thick, like I was breathing through a straw. Harrison's words weren't just about my plan. They were about me, my skin, my place in his world. I'd heard that tone before. Subtle, coded, the kind of racism that hides behind a smile and a handshake. But this wasn't just prejudice. His eyes had a glint, like he was playing a game I didn't know the rules to. I looked at Isabel, my wife, standing beside him. Her blonde hair caught the light. Her white dress glowed. But her face, God, her face was a punch to the gut. She knew this project was my heart, my plan to turn Harlem into a place where kids like me could dream big. She'd helped me sketch it out, promised to back me. But now? She just stood there, eyes on the floor, lips sealed. Her silence cut deeper than Harrison's words. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you thought had your back? Like truly stabbed in the chest by the one person you trusted most? That's what Isabel's silence did to me. I wanted to scream, to demand why she wasn't saying anything. But the room was watching, waiting for me to crack. I could feel their eyes, curious, pitying, some even amused. I was the black guy who'd married into their world, and now I was the entertainment. Let me take you back to how this started, because I need you to understand why this hurts so damn much. 2 years ago, Isabel and I were in a dive bar in Harlem, the kind with sticky floors and neon signs that buzzed. We were scribbling on napkins, mapping out this project. Affordable housing, a community center, green spaces for Harlem. She leaned over the table, her eyes bright, and said, "Eli, this is going to change everything. I'm with you, always." I believed her. I loved her. Our marriage was proof you could bridge worlds, black, white, uptown, downtown. We were going to show everyone that love and grit could beat anything, even the whispers about our mixed marriage. Those napkins. They're still in my desk drawer, creased and stained, a reminder of what we promised each other. But Harrison? He was a different story. The first time I met him, at his Upper East Side penthouse, he shook my hand and said, "You're smart, Eli, but not the kind of smart we need." I brushed it off as old money arrogance, maybe a touch of racism. I figured I'd prove him wrong by being undeniable. I worked my ass off, climbed the ranks at his real estate empire, Sterling Holdings. I thought he'd see my hustle, my results. But tonight, watching him rip up my proposal, I realized something. This wasn't just about him thinking I didn't belong. He'd planned this. The way he smirked, the way Isabel wouldn't look at me. It was all part of something bigger, something I couldn't see yet. The crowd started murmuring, their voices like static in my head. I could have walked out, let them think they'd broken me, but I didn't. I took a deep breath, straightened my shoulders, and locked eyes with Harrison. His smirk faltered for half a second, like he didn't expect me to stand tall. "You're wrong about me," I said, loud enough for the room to hear. "And I'm gonna find out what you're hiding." I turned to Isabel, hoping for a flicker of the woman who'd drawn those napkins with me. Nothing. Just her head bowed, like she was ashamed or guilty. I walked out of that ballroom, my shoes clicking on the marble floor, every step heavier than the last. The city lights blurred outside the glass doors, but inside me, something was sharpening. They'd humiliated me, used my dream as a prop to tear me down. But I wasn't done, not by a long shot. Harrison thought he could crush me with a few words and a torn piece of paper. Isabel thought her silence would keep me in the dark. They were wrong. I was gonna dig, and I was gonna find the truth. As I stepped into the cold New York night, my breath fogging in the air, I made a promise to myself. They'd lit a fire tonight, thinking it'd burn me to ashes, but I was gonna use that fire to light my way. They thought I was out of the game? Nah, I was just getting started. What would you do if the people you trusted most turned on you like that? Comment below, because I need to know I'm not alone in this. I stood in our penthouse, the Manhattan skyline glaring through the floor-to-ceiling windows like it was judging me. The place was all Isabel's taste: white leather furniture, abstract art that cost more than my mom's house, a sterile kind of perfect that never felt like home. My hands were still shaking from that damn ballroom. Harrison's smirk burned into my brain, and Isabel's silence. God, her silence was a knife twisting in my chest. She was right there, across the room, fidgeting with her pearl necklace, avoiding my eyes. "Eli, you're overreacting," she said, her voice soft, like she was trying to soothe the kid. "Dad just wants what's best for the company," I snapped. "Best for the company? Or best for whatever game you and your dad are playing?" My voice was louder than I meant, echoing off the marble floors. She flinched, but didn't answer. Her eyes darted to the side, and that look, guilty, cornered, hit me like a freight train. "You knew," I said, stepping closer. "You knew he was going to humiliate me, rip up my Harlem plan in front of everyone, and you just stood there." She opened her mouth, then closed it, her lips trembling, that silence again. It was louder than any lie she could have told. Ever been in a moment where you realize the person you love isn't who you thought? Like the ground just vanishes under you? That's where I was, staring at my wife, the woman I'd built my life around, and seeing a stranger. I turned away, couldn't look at her anymore. "I trusted you, Isabel," I said, my voice cracking. "I thought we were in this together." She whispered something, maybe "I'm sorry," but it was too soft, too late. I walked to my office, slammed the door, and locked it. The click of that lock felt final, like I was shutting her out of more than just the room. I sank into my chair, the city lights pulsing outside like a heartbeat. My mind was racing, replaying every moment. Harrison's smirk, the way he said, "A guy like you," Isabel's bowed head. It wasn't just racism, though, that was there, sharp and familiar. No, this was calculated, a setup. They'd played me, and I'd been too in love, too damn trusting, to see it. I rubbed my face, trying to shake the fog of betrayal. "She knew," I muttered to myself. "She knew, and she chose him over me." Our marriage, those napkins we'd scribbled on in that Harlem bar, the promises we made, it was all a lie. Or at least, her part of it was. I needed answers, not feelings. My eyes landed on Isabel's laptop, sitting on the desk. She'd left it here last night, probably didn't think I'd touch it. My stomach churned, Snooping felt wrong, like crossing a line, but her silence had already crossed a bigger one. I opened the laptop, her password, our wedding date, how ironic, letting me in without a fight. I scrolled through her files, my heart pounding like I was breaking into a bank. Then I saw it. A folder labeled Sterling Legacy. My gut told me this was it, the key to whatever they were hiding. I clicked, and a document opened. The title alone made my blood run cold. Strategic Plan, Harlem Redevelopment, and E. Vance. E. Vance, me. I scrolled, my eyes scanning words that felt like punches. Utilize E. Vance to create a public failure. Establish Isabel as successor post-departure. Protect Sterling brand integrity. I stopped, my breath catching. There it was, in black and white. Vance is a tool, not family. Removed to preserve legacy, a tool. That's what I was to them. Not a husband, not a son-in-law, not even a person. Just a pawn in their game, a black man they could prop up, tear down, and toss aside to make Isabel look like the hero who'd saved the company. I leaned back, my hands gripping the arms of the chair. The screen glowed, the words searing into me. Removed to preserve legacy wasn't just about business. It was personal, laced with that same coded racism Harrison had thrown at me. They didn't just want me gone. They wanted me erased, humiliated, a cautionary tale for anyone else who thought they could climb into their world. And Isabel? She'd known. The document had her notes in the margins, her initials on revisions. She'd helped write this, helped plan my downfall, all while smiling at me across the dinner table, kissing me goodnight. I don't know how long I sat there staring at the screen. My chest felt hollow, like someone had scooped out everything that made me me. I thought about those napkins, her laugh in that bar, the way she'd said, "I'm with you, always." Lies, all of it. I wanted to storm out, confront her, scream until she admitted it. But what would that do? She'd just lie again, or worse, cry and make me feel like the bad guy. No, I wasn't going to give her that power. I closed the laptop, my hands steady now. The hurt was still there, a dull ache. But something else was growing, something hard, sharp, like a blade being forged. They'd betrayed me, used my dream for Harlem to set me up, but they'd underestimated me. Harrison thought I was just a guy like you, someone who'd crumble under his sneer. Isabel thought her silence would keep me blind. They were wrong. I wasn't just going to survive this. I was going to make them regret it. I stood up, my reflection in the window looking back at me. My face was calm, but my eyes, they were fire. "They think I'm a tool," I said to the empty room. "Fine. I'll be the sharpest damn tool they ever saw." I wasn't sure how yet, but I knew one thing. I was done being their pawn. This was my game now, and I was going to flip the whole damn board. What would you do if you found out the person you loved was part of a plan to destroy you? Drop it in the comments, because I'm sitting here wondering how deep this kind of betrayal cuts. They thought they could break me, but they just lit a fuse. Guess what happens next? I sat in my office, the glow of Isabel's laptop screen still haunting me. Those words, "Vance is a tool, not family," were carved into my brain, each syllable a fresh cut. My hands were clenched, knuckles tight, and for a moment, I let myself feel it all. The betrayal, the humiliation, the sting of Harrison's smirk and Isabel's silence. I'd trusted them, loved her, and they'd played me like a cheap deck of cards. But sitting there, staring at the Manhattan skyline, something shifted. The pain didn't break me. It lit a fire. They thought I was weak, a pawn to be knocked off their board. They were about to learn how wrong they were. I wiped my face, the tears gone, replaced by a calm that felt dangerous. They lied to me, I said to the empty room, my voice steady. They thought I'd fold. I'm going to show them just how strong I am. I wasn't just Eli Vance, the guy who married up, the black man they thought they could humiliate. I was a damn good real estate strategist, smarter than Harrison ever gave me credit for, and I had something he didn't: hunger. Not for money or power, but for justice, for Harlem, for the kid I used to be, dreaming of a world that didn't count him out before he started. I opened my own laptop and fired up Nexus, an AI tool I'd been tinkering with for months. It was my secret weapon, a data-crunching beast that could sniff out patterns in financials, contracts, anything. If Harrison and Isabel had a plan to screw me over, Nexus would find the cracks in their empire. I fed it everything I had: Sterling Holdings' public filings, private emails I'd accessed from Isabel's laptop, even the Sterling legacy document. The screen hummed, lines of code flickering like a heartbeat. "Come on," I muttered, leaning forward. "Show me what they're hiding." Hours passed, the city outside fading to a blur of lights. Nexus started spitting out results, and my jaw dropped. Red flags lit up the screen like a Christmas tree. Sterling Holdings wasn't just gentrifying Harlem, they were weaponizing it. Shell companies, tied to Harrison, were buying up properties at dirt-cheap prices, pushing out Black and Latino residents with shady evictions. The data showed a pattern. Every block they targeted was part of my Harlem project's footprint. My plan to build affordable housing and community spaces. They'd used it as a map to cherry-pick their profits, all while setting me up to take the fall for their failed vision. But it got worse. Nexus dug deeper, cross-referencing bank records and email chains. Harrison had a slush fund, $2.3 million, funneled through offshore accounts to bribe city officials. Zoning laws, building permits, even community protests, they'd been bought and silenced. One email from Harrison to a deputy mayor's aide made my blood boil. "Vance's project will crash publicly. We'll rebuild on the ashes. Ensure resistance is minimal." They hadn't just betrayed me. They'd betrayed Harlem, my people, the community I'd poured my soul into saving. I leaned back, my heart pounding. This wasn't just personal anymore. Harrison and Isabel weren't just out to humiliate me. They were stealing a neighborhood's future, and Isabel's initials were on half those emails. She'd known every step of the way. The woman I'd kissed goodnight, the one I'd dreamed with, was helping her dad bury my community under their condos. Ever felt rage so deep it's almost calm? That's where I was. I wasn't going to scream or break things. I was going to build something, a plan to tear their empire down. I worked through the night, the city's pulse syncing with mine. Nexus became my war room, mapping every dirty deal, every bribe, every lie. I cross-checked names, dates, dollar amounts, building a case so tight not even Harrison's lawyers could wiggle out. By dawn, my eyes were burning, but I was alive, electric. I wasn't the guy from that ballroom anymore, the one who'd stood frozen while they ripped up my dream. I was a fighter, and I had the ammo to win. But I needed to face Harrison, to see his eyes when he realized I wasn't broken. I printed out a single page, a resignation letter, short and sharp. No explanation, just, "Effective immediately. Eli Vance resigns from Sterling Holdings." I didn't need his company. I didn't need his approval. I was done playing by his rules. That afternoon, I walked into Sterling Holdings' headquarters, the glass tower that screamed, "Old money." The receptionist's smile faded when she saw me. Word of the ballroom scene had spread. I didn't care. I took the elevator to the top floor, my resignation letter burning a hole in my pocket. Harrison's office was all mahogany and arrogance, a king's lair. He was behind his desk, sipping coffee like he hadn't just tried to ruin me. "Eli," he said, leaning back, that smirk creeping onto his face. "Come to beg for your project back?" His tone was mocking, but his eyes were wary. Good. He should be. I didn't sit. I dropped the resignation letter on his desk, the paper landing with a soft thud. "I'm done," I said, my voice low, controlled. "You thought you could use me, humiliate me, and I'd just take it. You're wrong." He laughed, but it was forced, a crack in his armor. "You're nothing without us," he said. "You were never one of us, Eli, just a charity case we humored." I stepped closer, my eyes locked on his. "Not one of you? Good. Because I'm going to build a future you can't touch. And when it's done, you'll wish you'd never said a guy like me." His smirk vanished, replaced by something I'd never seen in him: uncertainty. For the first time, Harrison Sterling didn't know what I was capable of. I turned and walked out, my steps steady, the weight of his stare on my back. The elevator ride down felt like a rebirth. I wasn't just quitting a job, I was declaring war. They'd tried to bury me, but I was digging my way out, and I was bringing their secrets with me. As I stepped onto the street, the city's noise hit me like a drumbeat. I could still see Harrison's face, that flicker of doubt. He thought he'd won in that ballroom, thought he'd broken me. But I was building something new, brick by brick, on the rubble of their lies. What do you think Harrison's gonna do when he realizes I've got proof of his dirty deals? Drop your guesses in the comments, because this fight's just getting started. I headed to a coffee shop, my laptop under my arm, Nexus still humming with data. The barista, a young black guy with a fade like mine, nodded at me like we shared a secret. Maybe we did. I ordered a black coffee, $3.25, paid with a crumpled 5, and sat in the corner, the smell of roasted beans grounding me. I opened Nexus again, the screen lighting up with more connections. Names of officials, dates of wire transfers, even a memo about minimizing community pushback. Every click was a step closer to tearing Harrison's world apart. I wasn't just fighting for me anymore. I was fighting for Harlem, for the kids who deserved parks instead of condos, for the families who'd been pushed out by Sterling's greed. They'd lit a fire to burn me down, but I was using it to forge something stronger. They thought I was a tool? Fine. I'd be the one to dismantle their legacy, piece by piece. I stood in a dimly lit coffee shop in Harlem, the kind with mismatched chairs and a chalkboard menu smudged from too many hands. The air smelled of burnt espresso and hope, the kind of place where dreams like mine were born. My laptop was open, Nexus humming as it finalized the last piece of my plan. I'd spent weeks building a case against Harrison Sterling and his empire. Every bribe, every shady deal, every lie laid bare. The Sterling legacy document, the slush fund, the gentrification scheme, it was all there. A house of cards ready to collapse. They'd tried to break me, humiliate me, use me as a pawn. Now, it was my turn to pull the trigger. I typed the final email, my fingers steady despite the adrenaline pumping through me. Subject: the truth about Sterling Holdings. The recipients: a curated list of investigative journalists, the SEC, the FBI, and, because I wanted it to sting, the entire Sterling Holdings board. Attached were Nexus's findings: bank records, emails, memos, all cross-referenced and airtight. One click, and their world would implode. I leaned back, my coffee cold, and let myself feel the weight of it. "One email," I said to the empty table. "That's all it takes to burn their lies to the ground." I hit send. The confirmation ping felt like a gunshot. No going back now. I closed my laptop, paid the barista $2 for a refill, left a $5 tip, and stepped into the Harlem night. The city was alive, horns blaring, streetlights buzzing. I felt alive too, like I'd just thrown off a weight I'd been carrying since that ballroom. Harrison thought he could crush me with a smirk and a torn proposal. Isabel thought her silence would keep me in the dark. They were about to learn what happens when you underestimate a man with nothing left to lose. The next morning, I was in a diner on 125th Street, the kind with greasy spoons and waitresses who call you hun. My phone buzzed nonstop. News alerts, texts from old colleagues, even a missed call from Isabel. I ignored it. I was glued to the TV above the counter, where a Wall Street ticker had been replaced by a breaking news banner. Sterling Holdings faces fraud allegations in Harlem gentrification scandal. The anchor's voice was crisp. Leaked documents reveal a multi-million-dollar scheme to manipulate zoning laws and displace residents, with CEO Harrison Sterling at the center. My heart thumped, but I kept my face neutral, sipping my $1.50 coffee like it was just another Tuesday. The camera cut to a live shot outside Sterling's headquarters. Reporters swarmed like vultures, mics shoved in the faces of shell-shocked execs. Then I saw him, Harrison, stepping out of a black SUV, his face pale, eyes darting. He tried to wave off the cameras, but they pressed closer, shouting questions about bribes and evictions. He looked smaller than I'd ever seen him, like the king had just realized his crown was fake. I couldn't help it. A small smile crept onto my face. "You thought I was nothing," I muttered. "How's it feel now?" Then Isabel appeared, trailing behind him, her blonde hair pulled back, her face tight with panic. She tried to shield him from the cameras, but her eyes, God, those eyes, were drowning in guilt. She knew this was her fault too. Her notes in the Sterling legacy file, her initials on the plan to set me up. She'd helped build this disaster. Now she was watching it crumble. Part of me wanted to feel bad for her, for the woman I'd loved, the one who'd drawn napkins with me in that dive bar. But that part was buried under the truth. She'd chosen her dad's lies over me. Ever been in a moment where justice feels so good it almost hurts? That's where I was, watching their empire crack on live TV. The anchor kept going. Sources say the FBI is investigating, with potential charges ranging from fraud to racketeering. I paid my bill, $7.25, left at 10, and headed downtown. I needed to see the endgame for myself. By noon, I was across from Sterling Holdings' glass tower, blending into the crowd with a baseball cap and a cheap pair of binoculars I'd bought for $15 at a bodega. The place was chaos. News vans, protesters, even some Harlem residents holding signs that read, "Save our homes." Then it happened. 3 black SUVs pulled up, and out stepped FBI agents, badges flashing, faces stone cold. They marched into the building, and the crowd erupted, some cheering, others shouting at the Sterling logo above the doors. I zoomed in with the binoculars, catching a glimpse through the boardroom's glass walls. Harrison was there, pacing, yelling into a phone that he slammed down as the agents walked in. Isabel stood frozen, her hands covering her face, like she could hide from what was coming. An agent handed Harrison a document, probably a warrant, and his shoulders slumped. For the first time, the man who'd called me a guy like you looked defeated, broken. I lowered the binoculars, my breath steady. "You lied to me," I said under my breath. "Now you've lost everything." I turned and walked away, the city's pulse matching mine. The protesters' chants faded behind me, but their energy fueled me. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about Harlem, the families they'd tried to push out, the dreams they'd tried to steal. I'd taken their lies and turned them into a weapon, and now their empire was dust. As I crossed into Midtown, my phone buzzed again. Another news alert. Sterling Holdings stock plummets 40% amid scandal. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. I knew what I'd done. One email, one truth, had ripped through their world like a hurricane. Harrison was facing cuffs. Isabel was facing shame. And Sterling Holdings was facing oblivion. I wasn't gloating, though. Revenge didn't feel like victory. It felt like balance. They'd tried to bury me, but I'd climbed out and brought their house down with me. I stopped at a street corner, the city swirling around me. A kid on a skateboard zipped by, his laughter cutting through the noise. I thought about Harlem, about the project I'd rebuild, the community center, the green spaces. This wasn't the end. It was the start. They'd lit a fire to burn me, but I'd used it to clear the way for something better. What do you think it feels like to watch the people who betrayed you lose it all? Drop it in the comments, because I'm still processing this storm I unleashed. They thought they could lie to me forever. Now I'm the one holding the knife, and I'm ready to carve out a new future. A year later, I stood on a Harlem street, the morning sun cutting through the dust of a construction site. The air smelled of fresh concrete and possibility, a far cry from the champagne and lies of that Manhattan ballroom. Behind me, cranes hummed, workers shouted, and the skeleton of a community center rose against the skyline. My community center. My Harlem. The project Harrison Sterling had torn to shreds was alive again, funded by my new company, built on the ashes of their betrayal. I'd taken their lies and turned them into something real, something that would outlast us all. I thought about Harrison, rotting in a federal prison upstate. The news had shown him in an orange jumpsuit, his smirk gone, replaced by a hollow stare. Fraud, racketeering, bribery. The charges had piled up like bricks, each one a piece of the truth I'd sent to the FBI. Isabel was out there somewhere too, dodging reporters who hounded her every step. I'd seen her on TV once, her face pale, eyes red, the Sterling logo being pried off their headquarters behind her. Part of me wondered if she regretted it. Her silence, her lies, the way she'd chosen her dad over me. But that part was small, buried under the life I was building now. The construction site buzzed with energy. Black and Latino workers hammered and laughed, their hard hats gleaming in the sun. Kids from the neighborhood darted around, sneaking closer to watch the machines. One of them, a boy with a faded Knicks jersey and a gap-toothed grin, ran up and handed me a bottle of water. "Mr. Vance, you really building this for us?" he asked, eyes wide. I crouched down, meeting his gaze. "Yeah, man," I said, ruffling his hair. "This is for you, your friends, your family, a place to grow, to dream big." He beamed, then sprinted off, shouting to his buddies about the basketball courts we'd planned. I stood up, my chest tight with something I hadn't felt in a long time. Pride. Not just for me, but for us. Harlem, the people who'd been counted out. The ones Harrison and Isabel had tried to erase. I walked over to a folding table where blueprints were spread out, weighed down by coffee mugs. The designs were mine, redrawn from those old napkins, but better. Affordable housing, a tech lab, a garden for the elders. Every line was a middle finger to the Sterling's condos and their greed. I ran my finger along the sketch of the community center's entrance, where a plaque would read, "For Harlem, by Harlem." That was my legacy, not their lies. Ever had a moment where you realized you'd turned pain into something beautiful? That's what this was. They'd tried to burn me down, but I'd used their fire to build a future. Harrison's empire was gone. Isabel's silence had cost her everything, and I was still standing, stronger than ever. I wasn't gloating, though. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about hope, about showing those kids they could be more than a guy like you. As the sun climbed higher, I joined the workers, joking with them over the roar of drills. One guy, Marcus, clapped me on the shoulder. "Eli, you did this, man. You brought us back." I smiled, but didn't say much. Words felt small compared to the weight of it all. I looked at the kids again, their laughter cutting through the noise, and I knew this was worth every sleepless night, every stab of betrayal. I stepped back, taking it all in. The cranes, the workers, the kids, the blueprints. They'd tried to break me, but I'd built something unbreakable. What's your story of rising from the ashes? Share it in the comments, because I know I'm not the only one who's turned lies into a legacy.